Knock, knock.
What the hell are you doing?
Warren hissed, snatching Johnson's hand before she could grab the doorknob.
Checking to see if the door's locked?
Johnson said under her breath.
How do you know it isn't rigged to blow?
Warren said.
What makes you so sure it is?
Johnson demanded, pulling her gloved hand out of Warren's grip. The two of them were on the rear stoop of the Gladstone estate, a crumbling brick tenement that had seen better days. Crabgrass grew in patches on the lawns, and discarded trash waved in the wind like the wildflowers of the ghetto. Most of the windows were boarded over, and those that weren't were carefully shaded. They had been watching the place for months now, gathering a mountain of intel, and the order to storm it had finally come down from the brass. Warren glared at Johnson, then at the door, then back at her again. We have no records of this door being used for foot traffic to the target, he said. If it's wired, at best, we give them warning. At worst, we're not going to be here to worry about it. As he spoke, Warren raised his left hand and gestured to the team behind them. Two squads of enforcement personnel in helmets and flak jackets advanced, running across the no-man's land of the rear lawn. Johnson braced herself, waiting for shots to ring out, or for some kind of alarm to go off, but neither happened. Both teams reached the brick walls in one piece, raising their hands to signal they were in position.
And if it's not wired at all?
Johnson asked. Warren didn't answer her question. Instead, he gestured to the two teams to either side of them. Each team had a point man standing in front of a window that appeared to be partially open. Warren held up 5 fingers, counting down to a fist. When all his fingers were curled into his hands, the teams both raised the sills and entered. Warren took a grip on his rifle again and turned his tan face to Johnson. Her blue face was a neutral mask, doing her best to hide her irritation. Johnson had her mouth open to say something else when explosions rocked the yard. Bricks flew through the air, followed by twisted window frames and pieces of the entry teams. Johnson's ears were ringing with the force of the blast, and she pulled Warren down by a grip on his body armor, pressing the two of them against the closed door. They could hear screams from both inside and outside the estate, and soon the shouts were followed by the roar of gunfire. So much for catching the operation inside, unawares. Warren shook his head, trying to focus his eyes. He was still the highest link in the chain of command for this fiasco, and if he didn't get on the horn and start giving orders, someone else was going to. He was reaching for the radio on his vest when the door in front of them was yanked open. A big man with cherry-red skin filled the doorway. He was dressed in a sleeveless shirt and loose pants, and he carried a submachine gun in his hands. It took him half a second to realize there were people in front of him, and that half a second was all Johnson needed to level her shotgun and squeeze off a blast. The man stumbled back and slumped against an interior wall, his weapon falling from his nerveless fingers.
What are you waiting for?
Johnson hissed at Warren, racking the slide on her weapon as she covered the door. Warren hit the transmit button and barked into his mic. "Team Charlie and Delta, hit checkpoint 2, Warren said, trying to keep the tremor out of his voice. There was movement down the hall, and Johnson fired another round from her shotgun, blasting a hole in the wall and causing someone to shout in pain. "Move, goddammit, move!" Johnson and Warren took turns keeping the doorway clear, firing their weapons dry, and even throwing flashbangs around the corner to ensure the targets inside kept their heads down while avoiding doing too much damage to the building's structural integrity. Johnson had just jacked the last shell out of her weapon when she felt a tap on her shoulder. Turning her head, she saw the armored bulk of David Grady, the slab of his ballistics shield held in front of him, and a pistol just as big and blunt as the big green sergeant's face held in his other hand. "Make a hole," he said before lowering his shoulder and charging through the door. His charge was met with a hail of gunfire, and it was returned in kind. Johnson put her back to the bricks and waved the rest of Grady's team in before snatching rounds out of the shell belt she wore, sliding them in 2 at a time. Warren had taken up a similar position, sliding a fresh magazine into his weapon.
You couldn't just try the door, could you?
Johnson asked, racking a fresh shell into her shotgun.
Can we do this later?
Warren said, flicking the selector switch and socking the weapon to his shoulder.
Sure.
Johnson said, gesturing at the door with her head.
I'm right behind you. Keep a close eye on where you put your feet.
Warren looked at her for a long moment. For a second, she was sure he was going to say something. Before he could open his mouth, though, his radio beeped, and Brown's voice came through.
This is Delta Team. We found Red Eagle.
Brown said, using the code word for Yuri Rostok, the man who was behind this particular franchise of his family's illicit business.
He's holed up in the penthouse suite. Would appreciate some backup.
On our way to you, Delta Team, Warren said. He almost let go of his mic, but then he deliberately hit the button again, holding Johnson's gaze. Keep a sharp eye. We don't want to set off any more booby traps today, if we can help it. Thank you for staying to the end of this story. Knock Knock is the introductory fiction to the supplement Ungentlemanly Warfare, a baker's dozen of booby traps, for the RPG Army Men, a game of tactical plastic. This is the second audio drama for the Army Men setting that's appeared on the Azukail Games channel, but make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned, because it very well may not be the last.